This episode of Not Another Mummy podcast is brought to you by Gymondo. I don't know about you, but between children, daily commitments and life admin, finding the time for working out is no walk in the park. What's more, gyms can be intimidating and they just don't work for everyone. So if gyms aren't your cup of tea, join the growing list of people cancelling their gym memberships in favour of working out at home with Gymondo. Gymondo is an online fitness and well-being platform with hundreds of 20 to 30-minute workouts and training programs ranging from HIIT and yoga to dance and meditation, plus over 1,000 healthy recipes. Aside from the freedom and flexibility Gymondo offers, exercising at home is fun, saves you money, fits perfectly into your lifestyle, and helps you stick at your fitness goals. So start a 14-day free trial and save 50% on your annual membership by visiting gymondo.com, that's gymondo.com, and entering the code MummyPodcast. Welcome back to Not Another Mummy podcast with me, Alison Perry. My guest today has gone from being a midwife to a fashion blogger, and she uses her online platform to discuss body image, confidence, shame, and so much more. Now, Natalie Lee, aka Style Me Sunday, has written her first book, Feeling Myself, which is a memoir about her experiences around sex and shame. In the book, Nat takes the reader along for the ride on her journey of self-discovery, searching out and then smashing some of the most powerful taboos around shame, sex and socialised sexism, which have held her back and which she thinks have probably held you back too. So, here's Nat telling us all about her mission to encourage us to shed the shame. Natalie, a warm welcome to the podcast today. How are you doing and what has your week been like so far?
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I am doing good. I have had a great week. This is second podcast of the week, which is going well. I love doing this. So thank you for having me.
Good. You're not podcasted out, I hope. I hope you've got some good chats.
I have. I'm not. Not yet. I'm not. There will come a time.
Give it a few weeks, because we've got a few weeks yet until your book is published. So you might, by the end of it, you might be a bit like, no more podcasts. I'm done.
Exactly. But do you know what? I've been wanting to have my voice and speak about the book for so long that I need to really revel and appreciate and be grateful for this opportunity. It will get a bit hard, it will get tedious, but this is such a good opportunity and I really don't want to lose sight of that.
Yeah. I mean, that's hard in most things, isn't it? You know, things that are longed for and wanted for a long time. It's quite hard sometimes to keep that perspective when things get a bit knackering or a bit full on. Yeah. But yeah, it's good. So we've known each other for a long time, haven't we? Back when everyone was blogging rather than posting on Instagram or TikTok. And I guess that the themes that you discuss with your audience and your community has changed quite a bit over the years, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's quite natural. Definitely for me, because I think you just grow and you change and you're into different things. And the worst thing I can ever do is restrict myself and contain myself to only one box, because then I get really bored and I get really angry about being just the one lane. And yeah, I definitely wouldn't have kept doing it if I was only talking about fashion, which is where I started. Because that does, sometimes I still love fashion. That will always be my home place. But it can get a bit boring sometimes. Sometimes I want to go really deep and I want to talk about things that are really important. So, yeah.
It's funny though, isn't it? Because even as, you are a consumer of media and social media. I am a consumer of all of that. And so as consumers, we want a bit of different stuff. Like I follow someone, you know, and they might be talking about fashion, but I'm still interested in what they've got to say about different issues and different, you know, life things they're going through. Like we're all multifaceted people, aren't we? It's kind of, it is a bit weird that for so long, so many people are like, no, this is my thing. Like these are my pillars. This is what I'm doing. And that's not really reflective of life, is it?
No, absolutely not. And you know what? I used to beat myself up about not being able to stick to one topic because, you know, in terms of like branding and marketing, they always tell you, right, you've got to find your niche. You've got to stay in this. Like people need...
Have your content pillars.
Yeah, people need to know who to come to and who's the expert to go to on this subject. And I've tried to do it for so long, but what I've realised is that that's never going to be me. I am going to talk about a range of things. I'm also not a planner. I don't strategize my social media. So I just go with the flow, and that's what keeps me interested and invested in this platform. You know, I'm also like trying to work out TikTok at the moment.
Aren't we all? Aren't we all?
That's and you know what though? It's actually it actually feels a little bit like it did when I first started trying to work out Instagram. It's a bit like, oh, this is fascinating.
It's a bit daunting though, isn't it? Because it's like this whole new world and a whole new language that people are talking in, and you've got to immerse yourself and work out, is this somewhere that I'm okay? Do I want to be here?
Yeah, it is intriguing, I think is probably a good way of putting it. It is a different platform to Instagram, and you get different content, and like my head is still like working out what's actually going on, and I'm a bit like, oh, I didn't know that was yeah. It's good. I like it.
Yeah, and also like the rules are seemed a bit more sort of free and easy on TikTok, which is very different because Instagram, it's like, no, you're told you've got to, there's an algorithm and you've got to post at certain times of the day and you've got to do this and TikTok's just a bit like, just do what you want. Just, you know, post 6 times a day if you want to. And it's like, whoa, okay.
I know. I was like, what? You can like upload six videos at the same time and they're all do differently. That was mad. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a learning process. We're all learning, aren't we? It's good. So something that you do talk a lot about, and it is a subject of your book, is sex and shame. And shame has been used for centuries to control people, hasn't it?
Yeah, it absolutely has. And I think for me personally, I felt shame before I was even born. I felt shame because of the colour of my skin. I felt shame for my sex. I felt shame has always been an intrinsic part of me, and I didn't really realise it until I really started to unpack all the shit and dig a little bit deeper. I have had a lot of therapy, and just I hate to say journey, but I can't find another word that's better.
It's the only word that adequately describes what you've experienced, Nat. Honestly, I've been through that same process of like, I keep saying journey, like when I'm thinking of questions I want to ask her, and it just sounds really cheesy, but it works.
Exactly. So yeah, I've been on this big journey, very healing, very painful, very traumatic, but ultimately very freeing. So that's been great and hard and brutal.
So tell us about that journey, because you talk through it in your book, and it's been about you, I guess, exploring, you know, I guess the trauma that you've experienced and how that has affected you and your entire life since. And your feelings about sex, about your body, about confidence, about, you know, your relationships. Like, there probably isn't a part of your life that this hasn't touched, is there?
The trauma or shame?
Both, I guess. I mean, they're interlinked, aren't they? I mean, you tell me.
Yeah, they are. I think our experiences make us. I think when you do have a traumatic experience in childhood, I guess that is the foundation that everything then builds upon. And the foundation is very shaky and unstable. And I know that I struggled to belong. I struggled to have any sort of sense of identity. I struggled with so many things. And I guess that is because, the role models I had in my life were also dealing with a lot of shit too. So I didn't have that stable and emotionally available figure around me to help me navigate these really strong feelings and emotions. And, when you're unable to talk about things, especially a trauma with a capital T, you inherently, as a child, think it's your fault. So, yeah, I mean, it has infiltrated my life in every single way imaginable.
So we should explain that you were a victim of a trauma when you were around 4, and so that's what we're talking about. And you do talk about it in detail in the book, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And yeah, as I said, that has just affected me my whole life. And, it will resonate, unfortunately, with a lot of people. There's so many of us have had traumatic experiences when we were younger.
And how do you think that has fed into the shame that, that you feel about so many aspects in your life?
Well, I think the fact that I had people around me who were dealing with trauma too, who were emotionally unavailable, unable to give space to my feelings and emotions as a kid. Often when we're children, we can get quite dismissed because adult stuff feels very big and heavy, and children, they get over it. Children are adaptable. Children, are resilient. And if you don't allow them to have their emotions and to talk about something in a safe space, then a child will only internalize that and then think that it's their fault. And I think that's the issue. So many adults as children have had things happen to them, have experienced things that weren't their fault. And because they haven't been able to have an outlet for the really big emotions, they have thought that they were responsible for it. They have thought that they somehow, made this happen. And that's a real thing. That's a real struggle to untangle and to get rid of.
Yeah. And that's why so many people need therapy, isn't it? Because that is such a big, huge thing to even start untangling. It's impossible to do without that professional help, isn't it, for so many?
I don't know if it's impossible. I'm not sure about that, because therapy is a privilege. Not everyone can access it. So I don't think it is, I don't think only people who can afford therapy are going to heal from it, because there's a lot of things you can do on your own. There's a lot of books you can read that help you understand how to deal with trauma. There's podcasts, there's lots of the internet, you can do so much. And yeah, I don't think you do just need therapy to deal with it. There are other ways. Journaling has helped me hugely. Also, I don't think it was only therapy that helped me heal. Obviously I'm not fully healed. There's still a lot of shit.
It's a process.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit to get through. But I do feel that that's one component of it. Meditation has helped me hugely. Learning about the nervous system and how, just by doing breath work, that has been quite transformational for me. using my breath to settle down my nervous system. That I would say is probably one of the key things. I learn now to take a breath before reacting. I learn that if I am triggered or in a trauma response, that I can use my breath to get me back into a more calm level state.
That's such a powerful tool to have. I mean, that's pretty, and I guess you can argue that all of these things that you're talking about are forms of therapies. You know, it's not just about paying an expensive psychotherapist or whoever to talk to you for an hour. All of this they're different forms of therapy, aren't they?
Yeah.
And we're very lucky that, you know, in 2022, we have all of this available and we have all of this knowledge and people are sharing this knowledge. And I guess this is something that you are doing yourself with your book and with the, you know, the conversations that you're having online. What was it about? I mean, you've got your platform, you're talking about fashion and about life. What was it that made you think, actually, this is something that I really want to, you know, I want to be supporting other people in this and helping them and talking about this?
I think, you know, the thing about shame is that it stays in the dark. It's like that really, it's like a little gremlin, right? That is in the corner of your room, looking at you and affecting every single move that you make. And you're just trying to ignore it. You're just pretending it doesn't exist, that it's not there. And I think my thing is, if I talk about the shit that's really hard to talk about, it shines a light on that shame. It brings it into the light, and it frees me up. It just frees me up. It's like, I see you. You're there. I'm going to talk to you. I'm not going to hide away from you. I'm going to face you. And I think sometimes we imagine that it's going to be a lot bigger, a lot scarier, a lot more difficult than it is. And I'm not saying it isn't going to be painful, because it is. Facing any sort of painful experience, even lots of little experiences, you know, trauma doesn't have to be a capital T. It can be, you know, crosswords said. It can be emotional neglect. You don't even realize that you can't connect with people because you haven't had a parent who is emotionally available. You know, there's lots of little things. But yeah, I found that if I talk about my stuff online, it helps me out because I don't feel ashamed about it anymore. I'm like, you can't attack me. You can't be that gremlin on my shoulder anymore because I'm talking about you. You're here. You're like, you can't be used against me in the future. So that kind of like enables other people, I think. It has that kind of domino effect to think, oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to face it. I'm going to, or just to think that, okay, it wasn't me. It wasn't my fault. And yeah, so it is a bit selfish because I'm helping myself, but I'm also doing it and it's helping other people as a byproduct.
It's definitely not selfish, Nat. I can tell you that. I mean, just because you're benefiting from it too doesn't mean that it's selfish. But let's get to the nitty gritty of it. Why do you think that shame has surrounded sex for such a long time as it has, and as it still does?
Well, I think you opened up at the beginning with saying that it was a form of control. It has always been a form of control. I think religion has a huge amount to do with it. And, you know, women, it's a great way to control women. If you police...
I mean, it's genius, right?
Yeah.
It's genius.
It's like, if you control how women have sex, who they have sex with, when they have sex, you know, if if you control all
how
of
they feel about sex, how they feel about themselves, what sex and having sex says to other people about them, like their image,
exactly.
all the whole shebang.
Everything, every single little facet is controlled. So you've got the control over us, haven't you? And, you know, it dates back so long ago. You know, there wasn't I can't remember when, there wasn't a diagram of female sex anatomy or reproductive anatomy for years and years and years later than men's. You know, everything was always about men. Even certain, like the uterus, I know that name is linked to shame. And the vagina, the origin of that word is it means a sheath over a sword.
Oh, you're kidding.
So even, you know, back in the whatever ages, women have always been seen as something that is useful for men.
Yeah, and a threat as well. I mean, a sheath over a sword, that's like you're protecting something that's dangerous, right?
I know, listen to the connotations of it. So no wonder, like, we have all this shit to unpack, because, you know, the real pioneers of our age had a huge issue with women, like Sigmund Freud. Like, you know, he thought that we were the devil, really. So, yeah.
And also, you do mention this in the book as well, the fact that the worst possible swear word, the worst word that people quite often refuse to say, is another word for a vagina. It's like, just that in itself, I guess, tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. The female femininity is so weaponized, isn't it? It's like, oh, stop being such a girl.
Even this week as well, in the press, we've had the story about Angela Rayner, the Labour deputy party leader. I couldn't think of the word. Party leader, the Labour politician. You know, the news story about her crossing her legs and uncrossing her legs in an attempt to distract Boris Johnson in the House of Commons.
No.
And it's like, you know, you're honestly saying that she's using her femininity as a weapon, as a way of, you know, getting one up on the opposition. It's just utterly misogynistic.
That's ridiculous. And, you know, I've said this before. It's just a fucking body. I am just walking around in my body. If you find my nipples offensive, if you find my cleavage offensive, if you find the length of my skirt offensive, that is not on me. That's on you. You know, why are women so restricted and controlled and demeaned and undermined? It really, as you can tell, makes me very passionate.
And it happens, but it happens so early. And like, is this something that, you know, as a mum, I have had to really think about and talk to myself about? Because I remember when my eldest, who's now 11, when she was about 7, she wanted to wear crop tops. My instinct was like, no, you can't wear crop tops. No. And it was only when I really thought about it and spoke to some friends, I was like, actually, that's really bad that I am telling her, because I'm kind of buy into that whole, well, no, if you wear a crop top, you're showing your body, and that, you know, the male gaze might be, you know, hitting your body and blah, blah, blah.
I know. But we go through this process as parents. I was exactly the same. You know, when my daughter, I remember one of the teachers said to me about my daughter rolling her skirt up. And I was like, well, that they do that, don't they? Like,
is it affecting her education?
Yeah, it's just normal. And hold on, have you spoken to the boys about this? You know, I just feel like women are so policed, aren't they? It's really difficult. And, you know, we are given a script. We're given stories. We are the foot soldiers of misogyny. You know, we don't even realize what shit we are bringing to the table too because of everything. And I'm just thinking, you know, we have to question every single thing we think and are told and have been told, because it ain't real. Like, we're, you know, for example, getting married, having a kid, like, we're told that that's the goal. Well, who said? Who knows if monogamy is the right way to have a relationship? Who says that that's the right way? Like, we need to get back to the soul, to our own soul, without sounding too spiritual. I know that sounds a bit woo-woo, but we do need to reconnect with our inner selves, because we've been given this script that we had no say in. And we need to question it. We need to not just blindly follow the path of the script that we've been given.
Yep, absolutely. Now, when it comes to being a parent, how do you talk to your kids about sex? Because it's often dealt with in a very biological way, isn't it? You know, like, these are the sexual organs. Like, they'll see that diagram that you talked about that didn't exist for a long time. You know, this is what happens in puberty. This is how babies are made. Is that the way that you approach things, or do you do things a bit differently?
I mean, look, I've come again. I'm going to say it again. I've come on a long journey with this whole discussion.
We should have a drinking game. Every time Nat says journey, take a shot.
First of all, I want to dismantle what we term as sex is. I think it's been very heterosexual focused. It's very much about penis in vagina kind of sex that you're not.
And it's about penetration as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm just unpacking it all. And basically the way I talk to my children about it is I talk about it like it is like having a cup of tea. I feel like it should be talked about whenever it comes up. I have really worked hard on trying to get past my shame and my upbringing. And I was brought up in a Catholic household and schools and stuff. And just be a bit more open and far less judgmental. And, you know, we talk about masturbation a lot, which is also, for me, sex. I talk to them about naming parts, the right names, and where are they, and, you know, and obviously I do definitely talk about consent and emotions and things like that, because the educational side of it is very biological, the stuff you get in schools. So I think it's our responsibility to make sure that the emotional side doesn't get neglected. So when I just try not to shy away from it, I just try really hard. If something comes up on TV, I don't turn the television off. I say, let's talk about it. How are you feeling about this? Let's not run away. Let's not turn the telly off. Let's not put our hands over our faces.
Yeah. And are they okay with that? Because I know that, you know, even if, like, you know, two people are kissing on the TV, my 11-year-old is like getting really embarrassed. And I think if I was, you know, at the dinner table bringing up masturbation or whatever, she'd be like, Mom, shut up. Which, again, that's that shame coming into it, isn't it? Like, this is a subject that we shouldn't be talking about. It's embarrassing. That's hard to get past, I think.
Look, what I have learned to just be okay with is that you are going to embarrass and cringe out your kids all the time. It doesn't even have to be about sex. They are constantly going, oh, Mom, will you stop? And I'm actually not even doing anything. I'm just asking them, well, what do you want for breakfast, or will you go and brush your teeth? So I'm okay with embarrassing them. They do get embarrassed, but, you know what? I think it's a worthwhile conversation to have for me not to back down just because my kids are embarrassed about it. Because one day it might be useful. One day it is going to be fucking useful. I know that for sure.
And also, I think that so often when, parents are talking to their tweens or teens about sex, it's almost done in quite a sort of scaremongering way. Like, partly it's a way of, we say, sex is to how you make babies. So it's like, it's a functional thing. And until you want to be having babies, you've got no reason to be having it. But also there is that kind of thing, saying, about teenage pregnancies and putting the fear into them that if you have sex, bad things could happen, or STIs, all of that.
Absolutely. You know what? I was actually thinking about this the other day, and I was thinking I would actually really love it to be renamed as pleasure education. Fuck the sex education. Let's talk about pleasure. Let's talk about your own pleasure. Let's talk about pleasure with somebody else. Let's talk about the risks of having your pleasure. There's so many ways that you can talk about it, but the way we're doing it at the moment doesn't feel very inclusive, doesn't feel like, that, as you say, it's scaremongering. There's so much fear around it. But actually, it's such a beautiful thing. Like, let's teach boys where the fucking clitoris is. It's very fucking important.
And it's not hard.
It's not hard. But also, let's teach girls where their clitoris is. Let's empower girls to know that it's not shameful to touch yourself. It's not shameful. It's actually free. It's actually really safe. And it's actually far less traumatic if you learn what your body likes through your own hands rather than somebody else. So let's have those discussions. And if we reframe it that we're talking about pleasure education, that just feels a little bit more welcoming in my view.
I can see that campaign now, Nat. You're going to start the campaign.
I am.
You're going
I should
get
write
in touch with the Department for Education. That's your next thing.
That's my next thing.
There's this notion, though, isn't there, that women, and actually especially mothers, should be on this kind of like holy pedestal, isn't there? Like, being a good mum and thinking about sexual pleasure, those things cannot coexist. It needs to be one or the other.
It's that Madonna whore complex, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. We both know
we need to ditch that, don't we? We need to move past that.
We really do. We really do. And as you said, like, we're multifaceted people. We can be mothers and we can be sexy. And why do we feel like once you're a mother, you can't talk about sex or be sexy or even admit that you enjoy sex? It's ridiculous. And obviously, you know that I like to present myself half naked on Instagram a fair bit.
Which I think is such a wonderful thing to do. Like, I think that, that's one of the things that I think it's been such a benefit to so many women, how there's been this progression on social media, but especially Instagram over the last, I would say, 5 years or so. We're seeing, different bodies and, stretch marks and scars and lumps and bumps, and it's reality. It's not this kind of airbrushed perfection that for so long was the only thing that we were seeing.
Exactly. One of the kind of storylines that I hope to encourage is that there's not only one type of way to be sexy. You don't have to be slim or white or have a smooth skin and abs to be sexy. We all enjoy sex. Not all of us enjoy sex, but a lot of us enjoy sex, and we come in so many different shapes and sizes and abilities and colors and everything else. It's just like, let's not homogenize what sexy is. It's just, we have to open it up and be aware that it's not just for one type of person. And that hopefully sort of just helps people feel a lot better, because so many of us feel excluded from the sexy conversation or the sexy representation. And that's not fucking fair. I'm sorry, it's really not.
It really isn't. I love in the book you talk about something that Cherry Healey has said to you about sex being. Remind me what it was, something to do with like sex being like this ocean, and that so many of us just dip our toes in and have a little paddle rather than diving deep down into the ocean.
I don't.
Does that ring any bells?
Yeah, but she loves a fucking analogy, so it's really hard to remember because she often talks about a buffet. And I don't know whether that made it into the final edit or not.
Was it a buffet or was it an ocean? It was something.
I don't know. But yeah, I think you're right. It was an ocean. But what was she? What I can't remember what that was in reference to.
She was saying that most people just sort of like dip their toes in, and actually, what she has done in more recent years is she has, taken a
deep dive
deep into the ocean, a deep dive into that ocean of sex.
I don't know how to respond to that. What's the question?
It wasn't really a question, I guess. It was just me reflecting on what you were saying, and it reminded me of this quote from Cherry.
Oh, right.
So, but there's so much in your book that is, like lovely little nuggets like that, little analogies that just make you think and like, oh yeah, that's brilliant. But one thing you have discovered on your journey, there it is again, was that you are attracted to women. You spent a lot of your life thinking that you were completely straight, haven't you?
Yeah, I think it just goes down to that. Like, I didn't think there was any other option, really. Heterosexuality is presumed. And as Cherry Healey would say, there's a whole buffet out there. Like, why are you going to restrict me to only one section of the buffet? I want it all. So it was really enlightening, sort of like just being able to go, actually, am I heterosexual or do I like women as well? And the answer was yes, I do. I've always known that I fancy women, but they were just never not viable option, but never like a serious option. Do you know what I mean? Because they couldn't provide me even the words I'm using are annoying me, but they couldn't provide me with the stability or the kind of life that I thought I needed or wanted. So they were just off the buffet table, and now they're back on the buffet table, and now I'm reveling in the whole buffet.
And again, do you have conversations about that with your kids? Like, obviously they're aware that you and their dad are no longer together. What was that like? What sort of impact did that have on your family?
Yeah, again, we speak about it often. I talk to them about dating both men and women, sometimes show them pictures of whether they think that, that's a nice person and I should like them or have a conversation. And I've asked them about their feelings towards other people and haven't assumed that they are heterosexual. So again, it's just that everyday little conversations, not assuming things, leaving the floor very, very open and being honest, just being honest. There's nothing to hide. There's nothing to feel ashamed of. It's like, I date women, I date men, I date anything in between. It doesn't really bother me. I would class myself as pansexual now, which means that I'm just attracted to a person rather than their genitals. And I also think that, like, my eldest is now in secondary school, and the whole sexuality thing seems to be a lot more sort of open and kind of just normalized a lot more than it was when I was at school.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like it's like a big thing really in our household.
Yeah, that's good. That's so good. And at the end of writing the book, you said that you were happily single. Is that still the case now?
It is still the case. It is. I am dating, but nothing serious. I don't even know if I would like a relationship. I'm not, and I haven't quite got the clarity on that yet, because I'm really loving the space and the freedom that I have. Like, look, I've just decorated my whole front room completely green. You know, I could never have done.
It looks amazing.
Thank you. I couldn't have done that before because I always had to fucking compromise with somebody. And one thing I hate to do is compromise. So I'm really reveling in this singledom. And I also think that being in a relationship, we are kind of taught to grow up to aspire to be in a relationship, and we are not actually given the any sort of positive aspects about being single. And actually, I'm finding being single just bloody lovely. I really, really am enjoying myself. There's so much to be said for it. So who knows what's going to happen? I just know that I'm not in any rush to meet anyone.
That's brilliant. That's so good. So what's next for you? You've said that you're working on a non-profit idea and that you want to help others experience sexual healing. What are your ideas? What are you working on?
So do you know what? You've basically predicted it. So it's the kind of turning the sex education idea on its head and giving something to people that is much more inclusive and doesn't assume things. I basically want to re-educate adults so that they can then educate their children and just open up the conversation and rewrite the scripts.
I love it. That's just brilliant. I'm honestly looking forward to seeing what you do, Nat. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've loved talking to you. Your book, Feeling Myself, is available.
What did you think? What tell me what your thoughts are on it. You haven't said anything.
I loved it.
Did you?
I found it, I love that it's split up into sections, so it feels like really like easy to read. It's totally immersive. Like, I just found myself just one more page. And like, I needed to go and cook my kids' dinner, and I was like, no, I just want to finish the chapter. And it's such a lovely mix of like your own experiences, but also bringing other people into it and their experiences and experts. Loved it.
That makes me so happy.
So,
thank you, Alison, because I really respect your opinion. So I'm really, really happy that you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's great. But where can we find you online to hear more from you, Nat?
So, as I said, I'm just dipping my toe into TikTok. So come and find me on TikTok. I'm style_me_Sunday and Style Me Sunday on Instagram. Come and find me and let's have a chat.
Lovely. Thank you so much,
Thank
Nat.
you.
It's been so nice to chat to you today.
See you later.